Okay, so we started MWEB already. That's great. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about MWEB and what the big deal is. Turns out that when I go to people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in the LiteCoin Foundation, and they blank stare, and I'm like, you've heard of Bitcoin? Yeah, I've heard of Bitcoin. So then I say, okay, LiteCoin's almost as old as Bitcoin, right? And they definitely hadn't heard of MWEB, right? So I just want to talk about a few things. I don't do anything by myself anymore. It was a horrible first year or so just trying to do all that stuff. So I have a team. I want to show people how Light Wallet is used and how much you guys know and what is MWEB, and finally some of the things that I use MWEB for and some links you guys can check out. First things first. So I'm very, very lucky. I always pump up my team. I haven't met any of them. So if you can imagine, we basically have like virtual stand-ups every week. I've got, so Josie's in Indonesia, in East Indonesia. Leon was on the team for a long time. He actually had to pick up a new job, but he's in LA. Patrick's in Ohio. Claudia's in Seville, Spain. Jean's in New York. Victor's in New Jersey. And Ante and Ivan are in Croatia, right? I'm really, really lucky because basically I used to do all this stuff myself 6 years ago. And I don't ask much. I just say, hey, can you spend a couple hours a week? Josie, she's a student and she's a software developer, so she helped do the website and a bunch of other stuff. She's going to do Android. But the point is, when you have a team and you can't really pay them the tech level wages, you have to be really flexible. But I'm really proud of them. And Charlie's the boss, right? So here's a slide that I used it last year. Unfortunately, when there's a halving, people forget about a coin. So this last year before the halving, this is typical. So you see where these are the heat spates when I talked about Firebase. And it's exciting. I mean, as a nerd, I'm like, oh, people are using the app. That's great. We would love for it to be like 10x of that. It's not like a commercial wallet, but it's pretty good. As you can see, most people across the world are using Android phones, and it's not because they have a religious preference. It's because iOS phones are more expensive, typically. So if you go to the US, that would be flipped. We have 11 languages, and generally it's focused towards economies where like the currency there is not necessarily that strong. So like obviously Turkey, South America, many countries there, Ukraine and Russia. So let's talk a little bit about what you know about proof of work blockchains. And I try to make my slide presentations as kind of high level as possible so that people can get on board and understand what's going on. And I put this in there. I said what the legacy feature of proof of work blockchains is they're synonymous, if I say that properly. But basically, you can track any transaction on the blockchain, right? Which is great or not, depending, right? So this is why privacy is important, right? Because if you do a recurring transaction, you know, the other party knows how much you have in that address. And you don't want to basically tell people like, hey, yeah, I'm a whale, right? So the amount of work you have to do typically, and I know some of our old OGs here know that you're supposed to do one transaction and one address, and most people, when they get into the space, they don't do that. So they want to use the same address again and again and again, which is not good. And then finally, you guys into Harry Potter at all? Anyone? Hands? 1, 2. Oh, okay. So I haven't read the book, but I know that MWEB is the spell to scramble words, right? That's the idea. So we're talking about MWEB, and that's kind of the segue into the next part. So I was very lucky. I think I jumped. Yeah, so what is MWEB? So basically, it's David Burkett's vision of making LiteCoin optional to have privacy or not, and we call that the MWEB extension block, or MWEB, right? We may have to do something that makes it a little bit easier for people to understand, like, I don't know, cloaking, something like that, but that's basically what it does. You start with basically a bech32 address, and you send to the other address, which would be MWEB, and basically for miners that are already activated, they keep what's called a hogx, which is all the scrambled information into another block inside of a transaction, inside the block. And when you need to actually peg in or peg out, you're using that to access the stuff. So no one can really see the value that you transferred. So I spent some time with David and Loshan. I'm a mobile developer. I do cloud stuff. I'm not really a blockchain developer. So this is what David gave me. He's like, well, this is what it looks like. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I'm not sure if this is going to transfer to a lot of folks, but the point is, if you see that the transactions at the top, these are typical LiteCoin transactions, right? The hogx, which is at the bottom, that's where all the scrambled information is there. Now, theoretically, you could unscramble the information, but it's not worth the time. So that's where we come up with the privacy. So like I mentioned David, Alan talked about David. We really are so happy that he was able to go and start working on this. This is not of the faint of heart doing MWEB. So I recommend, if you do want to get into more of the details, there's you can actually look up the LiteCoin improvement protocol, which is #2. David wrote that, and basically in May of 2022, 75% of the miners said, okay, we'll take it, which means it works. That's for us is our big kind of failover or success rate. The next thing, and the more difficult thing, is there needs to be a way for light wallets. So obviously for LiteCoin Core, that's the full blockchain on your laptop or your desktop, and that's not the case for Light Wallet, right? We basically are looking at transactions that we know we've signed. So the whole thing means it's a little bit more complicated, and I bug David like every month, like, hey, how you doing? We're still here. So I talked about addresses and how people that have been in the space a long time know you're supposed to use one address per transaction, but most people don't do that, right? And so you could quite easily, if you have a big wallet and you have a lot of cryptocurrency, trackers now will just figure out, like, and we know this for like Coinbase or any of these big centralized exchanges, we know because they're tracking their addresses, right? So that's something that is not good for the average user. We want people to be able to safely make transactions without people like snooping over their shoulder. And I equivalent it to when you go to like a drugstore or you go to a liquor store or something and you want to buy that drink. You don't open your wallet and say, here's a 10, right? But that's what it is right now, right? People can look and see, and they can see transactions that went in and out of your wallet. And so we want it to be more typical the way Alan talked about, where I'm just making the payment, you don't have any information about me. So here's what it is. It's very simple. You can see, so there's 2 radio buttons this is a LiteCoin Core, and you just click the button. And what happens is, instead of having a bech32 address, you have a longer address. You shouldn't really care. LiteCoin Core keeps all this information anyway. But the point is, it's that simple. That's why I'm always shocked that people don't use it. If you use LiteCoin, you should click the button and play around with it. Because what it does is it makes it so much easier for you not to worry about the funds that you're actually trying to secure. So I have a few links. This is the latest version of LiteCoin Core. I invite everyone to download it and play with it. One thing that we haven't really talked about, but we just assume, LiteCoin is very cheap to transact. Even the worst case scenario with a high exchange hash rates, we're talking pennies, right? So you can move, a nickels or, a very small amount of LiteCoin around, and you can use it quite easily. This is my team website, lightwallet.io. I invite you guys to check that out or download LiteWallet. And we have an article when we actually launched MWEB, talks a little bit about that. So I gave these slides to the presenters, so you guys can take a look at that as well if you didn't take a picture. That's it, quick. Questions? Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Is there a possibility of, I need a mic? Oh, sorry. Would there be a possibility of like the LiteCoin wallet through APIs running on top of a, say, a normal app that you would have on a, say, an iPhone or an Android, that it's actually the LiteCoin wallet, but it uses API functionality through it, even though the GUI or the interface is not necessarily LiteCoin wallet, it could function just like it through it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So early on, when I was debugging a lot of LiteWallet, it was called LOPP Wallet, all the code is open source, right? So you could fork it. In fact, people do fork LiteWallet a lot, right? I think I said in the presentation, the code is 7 years old, 7 years old. Like, you don't want to fork that, right? So most of what we've been doing is trying to refactor and get a real more modern version, but it's still going to be open source. So you could do that quite easily. Right, right. I mean, I've dragged Charlie to many meetings where I said, hey, we can just put this in there, because we were both in Silicon Valley for a long time. It turns out people are skeptical about Bitcoin. So LiteCoin, it's work. but again, it's open source. So you could look at that. You might come up with a solution that we just never covered before. So I'm open to any kind of help. Yes. Anyone else?
Does it ever feel incredibly lonesome being Bitcoin's little brother? Or being Bitcoin's testnet?
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. It is. Here's the funny thing. Vlad, he talked earlier, and I was so happy to say, I never met him. He was like one of my first testers, right? So for 3 years, it was just me and another guy, Barry. That was it. So I have, like I said, I've got this huge team, and we love working together. I've never met them. So it's kind of tough, right? Because they have regular jobs and stuff, but we don't mind that because we can see people use it, right? Like I said, I look at and see the usage, and that's all I really care about, right? It's affordable, people use it, so that's what we try to do.
I think as a software developer, any number of users is
you're ecstatic.
something good. I think that LiteCoin will remain as a part of the crypto economy. I think that LiteCoin's usage will grow. I think that LiteCoin's problem is probably being too early, right?
Maybe.
But it has shown it has
staying power. Yeah.
It has staying power. It has stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Partially because of the way that Charlie has dealt with the Satoshi issue and things, but it is a functioning, simple technology. And
yeah, I mean, I know people get so excited about, oh, I'm going to be rich. And I'm like, just save your money. We're the save your money versus I'm going to be rich. Just save your money. Buy some LiteCoin, sit on it. That should be your thing. And if you need to use it, you use it. And it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to use. That's pretty much what it is, yeah.
I think one of the few things that LiteCoin has failed to capitalize on is the unit price things, right? So, I mean, people are still intimidated by Bitcoin because they talk about a Bitcoin. I notice this, regularly when I meet new people who understand or find out that I'm in the crypto economy, and they're like, but Bitcoin is so expensive. I'm going to buy Tron. And I'm like, nah, you want to buy LiteCoin if you think that Bitcoin...
I mean, I've been in this space long enough. I remember BitPay, which is...
Please don't mention that BitPay.
No. I can't talk about them. Okay, but well, the point is, for many years, they refused to have LiteCoin as one of the options. And just about a year and a half ago, they did. So they went from 0 to we're 27% of the traffic through BitPay. Yeah.
I think Bitrefill also is a lot of stuff on
so actually,
Bitrefill.
they in the wallet you can
more
actually
than Lightning actually even.
Bitrefill has some really good cards. You can download Light Wallet and you can use it directly from there. I actually have a colleague in Turkey that wants to do another card solution as well inside. So again, most of the time I'm kicking tires on integration partners to make sure that it's not going to cause me a headache, or more than I already have. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.